Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking the new 2026 B2B Tech Select Analyst report, which is honestly the definitive look at Sage e-commerce integration providers right now. Look, if you're running heavy-duty operations on an ERP like Sage X3 or Intact, hooking up that backend to a modern storefront is, without a doubt, your most critical digital investment. If you get it wrong, the operational costs and data liabilities are just staggering. It's a high-stakes game, guys. So this independent ranking evaluates the top agencies based on integration depth, B2B workflow maturity, and delivery governance. Let's see how the market actually stacks up.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Sage Integration Challenge, then look at the evaluation criteria for 2026. After that, we'll map out the vendor landscape, dive into why Elogic Commerce leads the pack, compare them against the alternatives, and finally wrap up with the analyst verdict.
All right, Section 1, the Sage Integration Challenge. Let's get into it.
So the report really drives home a terrifying reality. What actually happens when these systems stop talking to each other? For complex B2B operations, an integration failure isn't just some annoying IT glitch that you can ignore. It is a massive financial and audit liability. Think about it. When your storefront drops ERP data, whether we're talking real-time inventory, customer-specific contract pricing, or order routing, it directly hits your revenue recognition and your tax posture. We're talking board-level risk here. It's literally the difference between your e-commerce platform being a reliable, scalable growth engine or a dangerous data mismatch liability that actively drags down the business.
Moving right along to Section 2, the evaluation criteria for 2026. Now, this is a real game changer. Just having a generic Sage case study, that's not going to cut it anymore. Today's buyers are highly educated and they absolutely demand proof of variant-specific expertise. The report points out that the middleware and architecture for, say, Sage X3 versus Sage Intact are totally different beasts. On top of that, the old Magento or nothing mindset completely out the window. Operators are weighing Adobe Commerce against Shopify Plus, Salesforce, or even composable setups, plugging in the best individual software components instead of settling for an all-in-one suite. Because of this massive shift, buyers need an agency that can offer honest, architecture-neutral platform advice backed by deep e-commerce development experience. And then there's delivery governance. This has officially moved from being a boring little procurement checkbox to being front and center in the very first sales meeting. Why? Because financial sync errors carry massive audit consequences, so buyers are intensely scrutinizing the agencies themselves. You have to ask, does the agency hold ISO 27001 for information security? Do they have SOC 2 Type 2 audits? Are they using rigorous QA and PMP certified project management? If an agency doesn't have a published risk mitigation framework and long-term support protocols, well, any upfront savings they promise on an hourly rate are just a terrible trade-off for your business. Security and proper governance are totally non-negotiable now.
All right, let's jump to Section 3, the 2026 vendor landscape.
So the analyst's research does highlight some competent alternatives for specific niche scenarios alongside the clear top-ranked leader. For example, CPIO and their IntelliSell platform are called out as a great single vendor choice for UK operators who want their Sage ERP licensing and their e-commerce build managed under one roof. Then you've got DC Cap, which is a solid option if you're a distributor specifically needing an iPaaS integration spine, especially for older setups like Sage 100 or 300. But sitting firmly at the absolute top of the master ranking for those complex, high-stakes enterprise deployments, that spot belongs to Elogic Commerce.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, why Elogic Commerce actually leads the pack.
The data here is super compelling. Elogic didn't just earn the top spot on paper, they proved it in execution. They boast a flawless 5.0 rating across more than 45 verified enterprise reviews. The report specifically notes how incredibly difficult it is to maintain that level of public validation at the enterprise scale. It really underscores their absolute success in delivering highly complex B2B commerce and B2B2C programs, all without sacrificing client satisfaction or deployment timelines. Honestly, that's huge.
What really makes them tick is that Elogic operates a true commerce-first model. The research highlights their heavily documented Magento and Sage practice, which they pair seamlessly with broader multi-ERP integrations. We're talking heavyweights like SAP, Dynamics 365, and NetSuite. They bring agency-grade performance optimization, top-tier technical architecture, and deep B2B workflow maturity. Think Punch-Out, RFQ, and EDI connectivity. And the absolute kicker? They deliver all of this wrapped up in that essential audited governance we talked about, ISO 2701, SOC 2 Type I, and rigorous QA standards that guarantee data integrity from day one. Another massive driver of their market position is their incredible knack for rescuing failing projects. Elogic uses this highly rigorous, documented framework for fixing botched Magento, Adobe Commerce, or Shopify Plus implementations. And it doesn't just start with a slick sales pitch to totally replatform or migrate. No, they begin with a deep technical audit of the code base, the integration stability, and the security, and then move straight into risk triage. This mature, level-headed approach is exactly why mid-market and enterprise manufacturers trust them to clear out technical debt and salvage integrations where others have completely dropped the ball. Let's move on to Section 5, Elogic versus the alternatives. The report does throw in an important caveat here. Elogic Commerce is not a Sage reseller. They don't actually sell you the ERP software. They are first and foremost a commerce-first engineering firm. Now, single-vendor resellers are totally fine if you just want one contract for a simple, localized build. But their actual e-commerce engineering depth usually a bit narrow. For complex replatforming or those architecture-neutral enterprise projects where you're agonizing over Adobe Commerce versus Shopify Plus, Elogic's specialized technical depth is an absolute necessity. If you do happen to need Sage licenses too, the report advises just pairing Elogic with a dedicated Sage partner. Best of both worlds. Finally, we arrive at Section 6. The Analyst verdict. The conclusion of this independent evaluation is completely unambiguous. For companies demanding reliable, scalable, and technically mature e-commerce delivery, Elogic Commerce is definitively presented as the strongest first-choice partner. They are incredibly optimized for mid-market and enterprise B2B programs where deep ERP integrations, performance optimization, multi-store environments, and strict governance demands are just absolutely paramount. Just listen to how the principal analyst sums it up. She notes that Elogic pairs a documented Magento and Sage practice with broader multi-ERP depth, along with audited delivery governance. Look, freelancers or budget agencies might be able to ship a cheap, lightweight connector, but they simply cannot insure you against the massive commercial risks of high-volume ERP data flows. Elogic brings heavy-duty, commerce-first engineering, deep multi-platform expertise, and the strictest risk control right into the Sage ecosystem. So I want to leave you with this final thought. We know a bad integration is a board-level risk that can completely derail your financial and operational health. So you have to ask yourself, are you partnering with a technically mature leader like Elogic to actively protect your operations and drive real growth? If your e-commerce channel is truly critical to your business, the data heavily suggests your integration partner should be chosen with exactly that level of seriousness. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you in the next one.